Long story short, they came in, had us escorted off the property, was going to take over the business. In 3 days, we had the ability to go back in. We borrowed a bunch of money from Charity's dad to pay a lawyer, go in and basically force them out of the business, turn it into a simple loan. But they did basically try to steal my company and turn it into a Mopar restoration shop.
For years, Dave Kindig has been the creative force behind Kindig Design, the Utah-based custom car shop that turned the art of building hot rods into something truly extraordinary. As the star of Discovery's hit series Bitchin' Rides, Dave became a household name among car lovers worldwide. His perfectionism, imagination, and signature cool demeanor made him stand out. A man who could transform a rusted-out relic into a masterpiece that looked like it rolled straight out of a dream. But behind the polished chrome, flawless paint, and million-dollar builds, the story of Dave Kindig is far more complex than the world ever saw on TV. For decades, Dave built not just cars but an empire, one that demanded everything from him. Long before the fame, he was just a young artist sketching cars on paper in his basement, hustling his way through small projects with big dreams. But success came at a cost. The long hours, the pressure to keep up with massive demand, and the challenge of turning a passion into a business empire tested him and his team in ways few people knew. Rumors and speculation have often surrounded the quiet periods in Dave's life. Sudden absences from the spotlight, whispers of health scares, business challenges, and burnout. Fans have wondered, what really happened to Dave Kindig? Did he walk away from the stress of reality TV? Did the fame and demand for perfection finally take their toll? The truth is, Dave's story isn't one of collapse. It's one of evolution. Behind the calm smile and confident attitude is a man who's been pushed to his limits, faced setbacks, and come close to losing it all, only to rebuild stronger than ever. His journey from struggling dreamer to one of America's most respected car builders is filled with triumph, pain, and the kind of hard-earned wisdom that only comes from chasing perfection for a lifetime. Before he became the face of Bitchin' Rides, Dave Kindig was just a kid from Salt Lake City, Utah, with a dream and a sketch pad. He didn't come from money or fame, just a deep love for cars, design, and the art of transformation. Growing up in the 1970s, Dave was fascinated by hot rods, lowriders, and muscle cars. While other kids were playing ball, he was sketching sleek body lines and futuristic grills in his notebook, imagining how he could turn ordinary vehicles into works of art. His talent for visualizing design wasn't something he learned in school. It was instinctive. Dave often said that he saw the finished car before he ever picked up a wrench. He didn't have formal training in engineering or automotive design, but what he lacked in credentials, he made up for with creativity and relentless drive. After high school, Dave worked at High Performance Coatings, HPC, where he got hands-on experience with custom finishes and the technical side of car restoration. It was there that he developed his obsession with detail. Every line, every curve, every shade of color had to be just right. But as much as he valued the work, Dave knew he was meant for something bigger. He didn't just want to restore cars, he wanted to reimagine them. In 1999, with his wife Charity Kindig by his side, he took a leap of faith and started Kindig Design out of their modest Salt Lake City garage. The early days were anything but glamorous. Money was tight, projects were few, and the stress of building a business from scratch was overwhelming. But Charity handled the business side while Dave focused on the creative, and together they built something extraordinary. Their small operation quickly earned a reputation for stunning one-of-a-kind builds, cars that were sleek, flawless, and completely original. As word spread, Kindig Design became a local legend. Dave's designs weren't just about horsepower. They were about elegance, proportion, and balance. He wasn't afraid to blend modern engineering with vintage beauty, creating cars that felt both nostalgic and futuristic. His unique approach, a combination of artistry, precision, and craftsmanship, set him apart in an industry dominated by loud personalities and quick turnaround shops. Then came the moment that changed everything. Discovery's Velocity Network, now Motor Trend TV, was looking for a fresh automotive series, one that showcased creativity and craftsmanship rather than drama and destruction. They found exactly that in Kindig Design. When Bitchin' Rides premiered in 2014, Audiences were immediately drawn to Dave's calm leadership and unmatched eye for detail. Unlike other reality car shows filled with shouting and chaos, Bitchin' Rides was about the process, the artistry, the teamwork, and the transformation. Viewers got to see how a rusted frame became a flawless masterpiece under Dave's guidance. His cool demeanor, paired with his genuine respect for his team, made him a rare figure in the world of reality TV. Within a few seasons, Bitchin' Rides became one of the most watched automotive shows in the world, airing in over 100 countries. Clients lined up for years in advance, often spending hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions, for a single Kindig build. Dave had achieved what few in the industry ever could, turning his passion into a global brand. But success didn't come without sacrifice. As the orders piled up, so did the pressure. Managing a team of craftsmen, meeting deadlines, and constantly pushing creative limits began to take a toll. Dave often worked 14-hour days, 7 days a week. Behind the calm and collected personality fans saw on TV was a man fighting exhaustion, perfectionism, and the constant fear of letting anyone down. Still, no matter how intense things got, Dave refused to compromise his vision. His motto remained simple. If you're going to do it right, or don't do it at all. What began as a dream in a basement had become an empire. But it was only the beginning. The higher Dave climbed, the more he realized that success came with its own kind of danger. When Bitchin' Rides became a global sensation, Dave Kindig's life changed almost overnight. His once quiet Salt Lake City shop turned into a tourist attraction. His phone rang non-stop, and the waiting list for a Kindig build stretched years into the future. The man who started with a pencil and a dream was now at the center of one of the most successful custom car empires in the world. But with fame came pressure, and a kind that Dave hadn't expected. At first, success felt like validation. After decades of hard work, sleepless nights, and financial uncertainty, he had finally made it. The cameras loved him, the fans adored him, and clients were willing to pay any price for his artistry. But behind the polished paint and TV smiles, Dave was quietly struggling to keep everything balanced: his creativity, his business, and his personal life. Running Kindig Design was no longer just about cars. It was about reputation. Every project had to be flawless, every deadline met, every episode of Bitchin' Rides better than the last. The smallest mistake could be broadcast to millions. That kind of spotlight could turn even the most passionate work into a relentless grind. Dave often said that the hardest part of success wasn't building cars. It was maintaining excellence. Inside the shop, the team felt the strain too. With cameras filming almost daily, even routine tasks became high-pressure performances. Employees like Kevin Scheel, KevDog, Will Lockwood, and others became fan favorites, but the pace was brutal. Projects that would normally take a year had to be completed in months to meet filming schedules. Tempers flared, tensions rose, and Dave found himself playing not just designer, but leader, mentor, and peacemaker. Still, what made Dave unique was his composure. While other reality TV stars thrived on drama, he avoided it. He believed that the cars, not the chaos, should be the focus. "People don't need to see us fighting," he said. "They need to see the art." That philosophy earned him respect across the industry. But privately, the endless demand began to wear on him. The physical toll was one thing, the long hours, the stress, the sleepless nights. But mentally, it was the weight of perfection. Dave's creativity depended on clarity, and as the brand grew, that space to imagine grew smaller. He was now managing contracts, vendors, TV schedules, and client expectations all at once. The very thing that made him famous, his meticulous attention to detail, became a double-edged sword. By 2018, whispers began circulating online. Fans noticed Dave appearing less frequently at public events, or looking thinner and more fatigued on camera. Some speculated about health issues, while others suggested burnout. Dave never publicly addressed the rumors, but close followers of the show noticed subtle shifts. He began delegating more, trusting his team to handle designs and spending more time behind the scenes than in front of the camera. Still, Kindig Design continued to thrive. Even as competitors emerged, None could match the distinctive Kindig look, that combination of sleek lines, modern tech, and old-school craftsmanship. Every build, from the 1953 Corvette to the 1960 Cadillac, reflected his signature touch. The shop won countless awards, and Dave's influence reshaped how the world viewed custom cars. Yet, amid the triumph, there were quiet sacrifices. Dave's family had always been deeply involved in the business, his wife Charity running operations, and his daughter Bailey stepping into marketing. But the constant grind left little room for rest or normalcy. Vacations were rare, downtime nearly non-existent. Even when he wasn't working, his mind was. "I see cars in my head all the time," he once said. "I dream in body lines." Despite the pressure, Dave refused to slow down. He saw each project as a chance to outdo himself, not for fame, but for pride. Every car that left his shop was a reflection of who he was, precise. For Dave, the shop had always been his sanctuary, a place where imagination met steel, where ideas became reality. But now it was beginning to feel like a cage. Every build had to be more impressive than the last, every episode a spectacle. What started as a passion project had turned into a global brand that never stopped moving. The workload was immense. Kindig Design wasn't just building custom cars anymore. It was juggling television production schedules, sponsorship deals, merchandise, and international client demands. Dave's days stretched into 16-hour marathons, balancing design sketches, film shoots, and client meetings, all while maintaining his perfectionist standards. "When you do what you love, you never work a day in your life," he used to say. But lately, even he couldn't deny that it was starting to feel like work. Hard, draining work. The first real warning sign came when he began skipping events he once loved, car shows, meet and greets, and interviews. Longtime fans noticed. Online forums filled with speculation. Is Dave okay? He doesn't look the same. He seems tired lately. Dave, ever private, brushed off the chatter. But those closest to him, especially his wife, Charity, saw what was really happening. Charity had been there since day one, back when the business was run from their garage. She knew the price of ambition, but she also knew the toll it was taking on her husband. Late nights turned into early mornings, meals were missed, and even simple family moments were replaced by planning sessions and project deadlines. "He never stops," Charity once said. "Even when he's sitting still, his mind is running 100 miles an hour." Then came the health scare. Though Dave never made it public, insiders whispered that he'd collapsed from exhaustion after a particularly grueling stretch of back-to-back builds. The crew had to halt filming temporarily while he recovered. When he returned, he looked thinner, quieter, more introspective. He smiled for the cameras, but the spark in his eyes, that fiery passion that had fueled him for decades, seemed dimmed. This was the breaking point, not in a dramatic meltdown, but in the quiet realization that something had to change. Dave began reassessing everything. The fame, the money, the success. None of it mattered if it cost him his health and peace. He started to pull back from the spotlight, letting his trusted team take on more creative leadership. Kevin "Kevdog" Sheila, Will Lockwood, and the younger designers began taking center stage on builds, while Dave shifted into a mentorship role. In interviews, he began speaking differently too. Gone were the boastful remarks or talk of expansion. Instead, he talked about balance, about teaching the next generation, about slowing down enough to enjoy what he'd built. "You can't design beauty if your life is chaos," he said once, a rare, vulnerable admission from a man known for control. Fans started to sense this shift. The newer episodes of Bitchin' Rides felt more grounded, focusing less on drama and more on craftsmanship and teamwork. Viewers saw a softer side of Dave, a leader who wasn't afraid to step back and let others shine. It wasn't about ego anymore. It was about legacy. Privately, Dave began spending more time with his family. His daughter Bailey, now deeply involved in the business, became a source of inspiration. Watching her grow into her own role reminded him why he'd started all this in the first place. Not for fame, but for passion. His son Drew also joined the company, bringing new ideas and energy. The family dynamic that had always been at the heart of Kindig was finally taking root again. But even with this renewed focus, Dave couldn't escape one truth. He was human. The years of relentless pursuit had caught up with him. His body and mind demanded rest, and for the first time in his career, he allowed himself to slow down. It was a turning point, not the end of the story, but the start of a new chapter. One where Dave Kindig wasn't just the face of bitchin' rides, but a man rediscovering the simple joy of doing what he loved, at his own pace. When the cameras stopped rolling and the noise of the shop quieted down, Dave Kindig finally found something he hadn't experienced in decades: silence. It wasn't the silence of emptiness, but of peace. After years of relentless deadlines, fame, and fatigue, Dave had reached a point of clarity. If he wanted to continue doing what he loved, he had to change how he lived. The world knew him as the tireless genius behind bitchin' rides, the man who transformed rusted relics into rolling works of art. But what they didn't see was how close he had come to burning out completely. The fame that had once seemed like a dream had become a demanding master, and for a time, it nearly consumed him. In the months following his quiet withdrawal from the public eye, Dave began to rebuild his life, not in metal and chrome this time, but in mindset. He started taking time away from the shop, something unheard of in the early days. He spent more mornings with his wife Charity, more evenings around the dinner table with his kids. For the first time in years, his schedule wasn't dictated by TV production calls or client demands. He also began rediscovering his original love for design itself. Without the weight of expectations pressing on him, he returned to sketching purely for joy. No deadlines, no TV edits, just paper, pencil, and imagination. "This is what started it all," he told a friend. "When it was just me, a dream, and a drawing." Those quiet hours reminded him why he fell in love with custom cars in the first place. Not for applause, but for creation. The shop too began to evolve in his image, calmer, more collaborative, more focused on artistry than speed. Dave empowered his team to lead major projects, mentoring them to carry the Kindig legacy forward. Kevin Sheila and Will Lockwood became not just builders, but creative leaders, ensuring that the spirit of the shop would thrive long after the cameras were gone. The decision to slow down was not a retreat. It was a reset. Dave realized that success wasn't about how many builds he could finish or how many awards he could win. It was about longevity, legacy, and love for the craft. "You can't pour from an empty cup," he once said in an interview. A simple but profound truth that resonated with fans and fellow builders alike. And when he finally did return to public appearances, fans noticed the difference. He looked healthier, happier, lighter. The weariness that once shadowed his face was replaced by the same spark that had defined his early years. He joked more freely, engaged with fans more openly, and seemed genuinely content. This wasn't the exhausted perfectionist from before. This was a man who had found balance. But perhaps the most touching part of his story was how deeply family remained at the center of everything. Charity continued to manage operations with her usual grace and strength, while Bailey and Drew became essential pillars in the business. Kindig Design was no longer just his dream, it was their legacy. "We built this together," Dave said proudly. "And we'll keep building, but smarter this time." As for bitchin' rides, the show continued, but on Dave's terms. He insisted on a more flexible filming schedule, focusing on fewer but more meaningful builds. The newer seasons reflected a different tone, less about hustle, more about heart. Viewers got to see not just the stunning cars, but the philosophy behind them. The episodes carried a deeper message, that creativity and passion could thrive without sacrificing health or happiness. In the broader automotive world, Dave's story became a quiet lesson for countless craftsmen chasing the same dream. It wasn't about giving up or fading away. It was about evolving. His journey reminded everyone that success without peace isn't success at all. By the time he turned his focus toward mentoring young builders, Dave had truly come full circle. He was no longer just the master fabricator behind some of the world's most breathtaking cars. He had become a symbol of endurance, humility, and rediscovered joy. When asked in a recent interview what keeps him going, Dave smiled and said, "I just love what I do, but I love living." 2. That's what really happened to Dave Kindig. He didn't fall. He didn't fade away. He rebuilt, not a car, but himself. And in doing so, he created his finest masterpiece yet. A life as finely tuned as one of his own legendary rides.